Okay, welcome to another video. So the beta for Elementary OS 6 was released a few days ago, and it's one that I know quite a lot of people have been waiting for. So what we're going to do in today's video is have a very quick run through of the beta as it currently stands, and then when the stable release is out we'll look at things in a bit more detail. Now this is a beta and it's not really intended for all users to go and install on your main machines, so there will be some issues that you might run into and you can't upgrade from this version to the stable version once it's been released. So what we're going to do is hit on a few points from the release announcement, and then we'll jump straight into it and get this installed. So first up, under platform changes, there's a new screen shield which brings continued audio playback even when the display has gone to sleep. They've completely revamped the notification system with a new notification server and a refreshed design, and they've also included libhandy in Elementary OS 6. Next up, we have something that's been teased quite a bit running up to this release, and it's the new multi-touch gestures, which we will check out. So I'll also install this onto a laptop and we can see how nice and smooth those animations are as well. Another major shift for Elementary OS 6 is the inclusion of Flatpak apps out of the box, as well as an entirely Flatpak based App Center ecosystem. Moving on to something that Elementary OS has always been quite well known for, and it's the nice and consistent out of the box look and feel. And with Elementary OS 6 there's an all new system style sheet that retains the essential feel of Elementary OS while honing in on the use of elevation and shadow, all while enabling great new user-facing features like system-wide accent colours and dark style preference. So for the new and updated apps, the mail application has been completely rewritten and no longer relies on the custom Geary Mail backend, and is instead going to be using the Evolution data server. And in the stable release you will be able to set this up in the online accounts settings. Files has a rewritten sidebar and a new navigation mode, which is single click to navigate within the app with a double click to open files in their default app. Now I'm not a huge fan of single click, and I did do a little poll on my community tab and it seems quite a lot of people agree with me, but we'll see how this new hybrid approach works. And then finally that brings us on to the new installer for Elementary OS, which offers a much faster and more straightforward install for both end users and OEMs, and we are going to be installing it natively so we can check all of that out as well. With that being said, let's jump into the ISO and get this installed. Okay, so we've just booted into the ISO. Now as per usual, for those of you who like to skip the installation parts of these videos, there'll be a timestamp down below which will take you straight to the installed desktop. However, as it's new you might want to stick around and see how this goes. So the first step is of course to choose your language, which for me is English, so we can press select to go to the next step, and I'm going to choose United Kingdom. Next. And then we can choose our keyboard layout, so we're going to select English UK here, and then we're going to leave that on the default, and we are just going to quickly test it to make sure it's what I'd expect it to be, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, so we can try the demo mode, so you can get into a live environment. We can do a clean install, or we can go into custom advanced. So we're going to go to clean install, press clean install, and now we're going to choose the drive, which we are going to use the Drevo X1 SSD. Now we're going to do an erase and install, and I'm not going to worry about encrypting it for now, so I'm going to press don't encrypt. And that's it, so I'll pause the video here and come back once it's finished. And that's it, the installation has complete and clocked in at just 2 minutes and 6 seconds on my machine. So let's reboot and do the last part. We're going to create our user accounts. Okay, so we've just booted off disk for the first time, and we need to go through a few more steps and then we can check out the desktop. So first up we need to choose our language once more and select, and our layout again once more and select, and now we can create our user account, and that's pretty much all we should have to do to get straight into it and check out what's new. So let's press finish setup. And there we go, so we're going to log in and start playing around with things. So we've got a little welcome screen here, and the first page is of course reminding us this is an early access build and it's not possible to upgrade to the stable release from this installation, which is definitely worth remembering if you want to try this out yourself. So next up we have welcome to Elementary OS. Choose your look, so here we have the light and the dark theming as well as the accent colours, but we're going to leave it on the default for now because we're going to go through all of that in just a moment. So let's go next. Location services, I'm going to leave disabled, and next. Night light as well, so you can change the colour temperature of your screen. A little bit of housekeeping, so we can automatically delete after 30 days to save space, and we're going to choose old temporary files and trashed files. Get some apps, we will go into the App Center in just a moment to see if there's any updates that we need to get. And that's it, we're ready to go. So I think first of all we are just going to go straight into the App Center and see if there are indeed any updates we need to get, and then we'll start taking a little look around the desktop. Okay, and as you can see, the notifications just popped at the top right, and there's quite a lot that we're going to need to get at 3.4 GB. So I'll update this now, but I'm going to pause the video and then we'll come back once it's finished. Okay, so we're all up to date and we should be good to go. So I've done a quick reboot so we can run htop in the terminal and see how much RAM we're using on a first startup. And it's not looking too bad there, so it's 646 MB at the moment. Of course, we are on a beta. And then just beneath that, we can see that we do have a swap of around about 3.8 GB. And if we go into a new tab here and just very quickly run NeoFetch, which I installed before the reboot, we can see that we have 1580 packages, bearing in mind I have installed NeoFetch, and then we also have 5 Flatpak applications. And if we do a Flatpak list, we can see what applications they indeed are. So out of the box, the Flatpaks it's going to ship with are the calculator is going to be a Flatpak, as well as GNOME Web and then Evince the document viewer. So we've just run lsblk so we can see the partition layout that it's given us by default, and we can see there we've got some LVM and we also have a crypt swap. Now you might notice that we don't have our own hostname set, and we didn't get the option to do one when we was installing or when we was first starting up, so we're going to do that quickly now. Now I think that Elementary uses nano as its sort of default terminal text editor, so we're going to go sudo nano etc hostname, and then all we're going to do is remove whatever it's got there for the system product name, and then we're going to just call it something like Odin, and then we're going to control X out of it. I do believe is the nano stuff. I don't really use nano, so let's see how we do. So I'm just going to go Odin, control X, Y, done I do believe, file name, yep. Okay, so we're going to reboot, make sure the host name is what I want it to, and then we'll start checking things out. So we are back and our host name is now Odin instead of the system product name that it was using by default. So I think what we're going to do to start off with is just have a very general overview of the desktop for those of you who aren't super familiar with Elementary and the Pantheon desktop environment. So at the top we have our top panel, which is completely transparent by default, but you can go into the system settings and set it to a solid color. And it's also dynamic, so whenever you maximize an application, so we'll open up calendar, you'll notice it's going to go into a solid color with a very nice and smooth animation. Let's close that off. So in the top left we have our application launcher, which we can also get to by pressing super and space and then getting straight into it. And it's going to open up in the search box, so you can just type in any old thing, hit enter, and then open up that application. Now we're currently in the grid view, but you can also do it by category. And when you're in the grid view, you have these little page indicators at the bottom letting you know what page you are on. And out of the box, it doesn't come pre-installed with a whole load of applications, so we'll go through them in just a moment as well. Then in the center of our panel, we have our little clock and date and time, and if we press that, we can then expose the full calendar as well as see if we've got any events on this day, and jump straight into the date and time settings from here as well. Now at the top right, we have our power button for things like our lock screen, shutdown, user account settings, and all of that good stuff. And then we have our notification center, so it's still telling us we've got some more updates to get, but we won't worry about that for now, and we're just going to do not disturb so we don't get any annoying little things pop up while we're taking a look through. And we're going to clear all those notifications and keep it moving. We then have our current connections and of course our little volume icon here to get into the slider, the outputs, and of course if we was playing music we could also skip the tracks here as well. Now at the bottom of the screen we have our dock, which is fulfilled by Plank, and if we go control right click and go straight into the preferences, it's pretty much a standard Plank installation, apart from you don't have the option to do the icon zoom or zoom on hover on Elementary OS. Theming wise it's using the GTK Plus, and then we also have default, matte and transparent, and that is going to change the way it looks when you go into the dark theme as well, which we'll do in just a moment. So let's close that off. And now with a simple right click on the desktop we can also change the wallpaper, go into the display settings and the system settings, and while we're here let's change it to a different wallpaper. So they've always got quite a nice selection. I'm going to go for this one at the bottom left here, and as you can see it's also changed the colour of the text at the top there to make everything look nice, cohesive and easy to read. So in our dock at the bottom here you'll notice we have the multitasking view, so if you click that you can get into your virtual desktops and move applications around and all of that good stuff. And you can also use the shortcut keys of super and down I do believe, and then super left or right to then go to the next desktop. So I think what we'll do, we'll spend a very little bit of time going over the applications, and we'll open a few and check out how it all looks with the dark theme as well. So first up we have the App Center, we then have the calculator, which we do know is a Flatpak. We have their calendar application, we have camera, code, document viewer, their files application, which we're going to spend a little bit of time on because I'm still not entirely sold on this single click, double click hybrid, so we'll check that out as well. And then we also have the mail application, which we know is going to be using the Evolution data server as its backend. Multitasking view once more. And then we have music, photo, screenshot, system settings, their task application, terminal. And then on the next page, we also have videos and GNOME web. So I think what we'll do is we'll spend a little bit of time in the system settings, check out the dark theming and the accent colors, and we'll see how the applications look with the dark theme and just play around with things for a moment. So we're going to go straight into our system settings from the dock at the bottom here. And we're going to go into applications first to show you the default. So for your web browser, you are of course using GNOME web. Email client is mail, calendar is calendar, video, files, code, photo viewer, music, and so on. We then have startup. So currently we've got nothing starting up there, but that's where we can add things. And then we can also go through the permissions. Now we have desktop, which is where you're going to pretty much change all of the appearance built into Elementary OS. So we're on the wallpaper at the moment. Going over, we can now go into the style. So we're on the default, which is the lighter kind of theme. And then we have the dark theme. So I think we'll enable that now. So let's go ahead and do that. And there we go. And as you can see, the dock at the bottom has now got a nice transparent dark theming set as well. The applications menu has, there we go. For a moment there I didn't see the application titles, but they are there right where they belong, and the application launcher looks very nice with the dark theme as well. So let's open up a few applications and see how it all looks with this dark theme. So let's go ahead and open up their files application, which is not in our dock. So we're going to type in files, hit enter, and let's also go ahead and open up their tasks application as well. Okay, so let's have a little look at how these windows look. I quite like this dark theme, and of course we can bring them to the sides of the screen and then see what it looks like in a split view. And then we can also go into our multitasking view and see how that looks as well with the dark theme. Very nice. And of course we can just drag and drop windows onto separate desktops like so. And then we can go back to the first one and get straight back into it. I actually really do like this dark theme. I'm going to leave it on the light theme for the rest of the video until we get onto the laptop and check out the touchpad gestures. So let's go back into the light theme. Very quick, no waiting around, and you don't need to close the application windows to repaint them with the new theme. We can then schedule the things for the actual timing of it to change, so we can do disabled, sunrise to sunset to sunrise, or then we can do its actual manual custom sort of schedule ourselves. Now just beneath that we have the accent colours, so I'm not too sure what actually uses the accent colours and what doesn't. So at the moment we're on the default of a blue. Let's change it to the green and see if anything changes that we can see quite instantly. So that's changed, so as you can see the little sort of selection button there is green, as well as the background of the selection. And if we go into the application launcher, we can also see that the search bar has got a nice green outline as well, and then anything that uses those accent colours will stick with that colour that you've selected there throughout the rest of the desktop. And let's check out one more before we put it back on the default. So let's go for this kind of reddish colour there, and then there you can see once more it's also changed that again. And of course if we go back into there we can see that it's changed the search bar as well. So I'm going to leave it on the default, and then we can also change the text size. So we're currently on default, and then you can do small. Let's have a look at small. That's very small. I'm someone who really likes small text, but that's too small even for me. And then just beneath the text size we also have the dyslexia friendly text. So bottom heavy shapes and increased character spacing can help improve legibility and reading speed. So while I'm not someone that would use this, I definitely respect the fact that they have got this implemented, built into the system settings. Anything that helps accessibility options for people that might use it is definitely a big positive. And let's just quickly see what that looks like. There we go. So again, it's not going to make things any easier for me, but it's nice to see that as an option out of the box. And then for dock and panel, we can also change the icon size. So we're currently right in the middle, so medium. We can go even smaller still, and then we can go large, but I'm going to leave it on the medium size for now. And then we can also choose how it's going to hide, the pressure reveal, and then the panel translucency. So let's disable that for now. And that's going to be your top panel at the top. So it's now a solid color, and we're just going to leave it on the transparent. And then we have the multitasking. So I'm not a huge fan of hot corners, so I'm happy to see that none of them are active out of the box. But for those of you that do, you can go and select any of these things. So for example, you could have the multitasking view, maximize current window, show applications menu, show all windows, switch to a new workspace, or execute a custom command. So let's do it with the workspace view quickly for the top left. And now just quickly moving your mouse to the top left or your cursor is then going to trigger the multitasking view. Next up, we're going to use the App Center to install some applications. And of course, in the stable release, I do believe it's going to be very Flatpak centric. However, I've still got an update pending, but every time I click that, it kind of just does that, and it's still there. But of course we are in a beta, so we won't worry about that for now. So I'm going to use this to install a few applications. So we're going to go for Firefox, and this probably will be the native application for now. But if we scroll down, do we have a sources anywhere? I can't see it, so it'd be nice if we could actually see the source of it, but we won't worry about that for now. So Firefox is a non-curated app. So Firefox is not curated by Elementary and has not been reviewed for security, privacy or system integration. And then we can also choose to not show the curated warnings. So I'm going to install that anyway, pause the video and then we'll come back to it. So I've just launched Firefox and changed to the dark theme to see if this application will respect that selection. It doesn't appear to, but if I remember, there is something that we can do about that to force it to use it by installing the Elementary tweaks package. So I'm going to do that now and see if we can get Firefox to somewhat use the new dark theme. So we've just installed the Pantheon tweak, so we should now be able to go ahead and open that and see what additional options that we can do in there that aren't included in the main desktop. But before we do that, I do actually really like the Alt Tab switching. So you get a little dock at the bottom with just the open applications, and then you have a full screen switching of the tabs like so. So what we're going to do is go straight into tweaks. I do believe it's in the settings though, isn't it? So let's open up the system settings once more and then go back to it, and then we should have the option somewhere for tweaks. We might need to close this and reopen it for it to appear though. Let's do that once more. So we're going to go settings, and now as you can see there we have the option for tweaks. I don't know what we can do in here though that we can't do before, but while we're in here I do want to go into files, because I did notice that we don't have the option for just a standard double click there, so we'll check out how the sort of hybrid clicking works in just a moment. But what we are going to do is go into appearance, and there should be an option right at the bottom here which says force to use dark style sheet, and there we go. So enabling that option has given Firefox the dark style preference. It still doesn't look perfect, but of course this isn't a curated application, so it is nice that we can at least force it to use that anyway. So we're now going to spend a little bit of time checking out the files application. And in the mouse and touchpad settings here, you can change the primary button, the double click speed, and then you can do a dwell click, which holds the pointer still to automatically click. Let's see how that works. So we're not going to press anything, we're just going to hold it still, and then there you go, that's automatically clicked it. That's an interesting approach. We didn't have a long press secondary click, so long press and release the primary button to secondary click, and then we can also do a middle click paste. So let's go back into it. And in the sidebar, let's go straight into our home folder. Let's just close this off for now and move this into the middle. So it's a single click by default. So if we just press documents, it's going to go straight into it. And if we go back, we don't really have any files that we can open. So what we're going to do is do a quick screenshot, go into pictures and then go into screenshots. And now if we should select it, it should just select it. And now with a double click, it should then open it up into its default application. Okay, I don't hate that. I'm still not a huge fan of single click to select by default, but at least you ain't going to accidentally open things that you don't want to, because you still need to do a double click to then open up a file in its default application, which I don't think is terrible. So we're now on the laptop and we're going to spend a little bit of time going over the new gestures, which is something that I'm most excited about for this release. So by default, for a 3-finger swipe, you are going to switch workspaces. Let's give that a go. There we go, and it's really following my fingers there, pretty much one-to-one tracking. So that's a slow little swipe with just me dragging, stopping, very nice and smooth. And let's do a fast motion and see if we can get straight to that desktop. Brilliant. And I do believe we can also do that in the multitasking view, which has its own gesture as well. So with a 3-finger swipe up, we can also go into the multitasking view. So let's give that a go. Very nice and slow, just to make sure it's working. Brilliant. And then back down. Very nice. And let's open up a few applications and see how it animates, sort of spreading those applications along with the traction of our fingers. Let's also open up the music application. And now we're going to very slowly swipe up so we can see it in action. Oh, that's very nice the way it hides the sort of top panel and then spreads the applications in the multitasking view. And then again, sliding down, very smooth back into your normal desktop view. And now let's do it with a fast motion, so a quick swipe up and a quick swipe down. Very nice. That's some of the nicer touchpad gestures I've seen implemented in the distro so far. So let's close that off and see what else we can do. And then we have one more, which is for pinch. It's currently set to do nothing, but we can set it to a zoom. So let's give that a go. Now the pinch gesture is always a bit tricky on my touchpad, but we'll give it a go. So we're going to try and zoom in by just sort of like so. Let's try that again. There we go. Wow, that's actually really quite good. And it sort of really does follow my fingers, and the pinch motion is actually quite smooth. I had a bit of trouble pinching on another distro the other day, but that is working absolutely fine. Okay, I like that a lot. Okay, so that's the defaults, but what else can we do? So we can also set it to 4 fingers instead of 3, and then if we go into the top one, so the only option here is to switch workspace, and for a 4 finger it's also just to switch workspace. Let's try the 3 fingers now. So we can also use that to toggle maximized, or we can just leave it on the multitasking view. Let's quickly see how it works with toggling a maximized application. So we're going to open up GnomeWeb and we'll test it out with that. We're currently not connected to the internet, but that's not to worry. So now if we swipe up, it's not appearing to work for me in this beta. Okay, let's try and just change it back and make sure we're not doing anything silly. So we should just be able to, the maximizing is not quite working for me. So that's toggle maximized, and it's just, no, it doesn't want to do it. Okay, we won't worry about that one for now. And now for the pinch, we can also just set it to zoom. All in all though, I really do quite like these gestures. It's just so nice and smooth. It follows exactly what your fingers are doing. You can go fast, you can go slow, and the animations look beautiful. Okay, we're going to jump back onto the desktop. We're going to play around with a few applications, and then we're going to wrap it up there because I want to save most of this for the final review when the stable release is out. Okay, let's spend a minute or two having a look at their mail application, which I've never really properly used even before their rewrite, so we'll see how we go. Now I have added an online account for this, but I'll blur things out so no personal information gets shared. But again, much like all of Elementary OS's applications, it's a very nice and clean interface, and you'll also see that in the tasks application, which we'll check out after this as well. So first up, let's see what these row of buttons do. So the first one is compose new message, and I like the fact that hovering over it then gives you a bit of information about the keyboard shortcuts. So for a new message, it's Control and N. We then have our search box to search through emails, and then we have buttons for reply all, forward, and then we also have the mark conversations to mark any important emails and go back to them. And then we have the trash can, and then finally we have a little settings button here, and in pressing that you've got the option to always show remote images or jump straight into your account settings. So I think what we'll do is we'll test this out by sending a little dummy email. So we're going to press Control and N to open up a new window, and let's full screen that and see what's what. So of course we have the to and subject lines, and then just beneath that we have some formatting options for bold, italics, underline, strike through, and all of that good stuff, as well as insert a link, insert an image, or remove formatting. And then at the very bottom we can delete it, or of course we can attach a file. So let's delete that for now, and then of course it will ask us if we want to permanently delete this draft, which we do. And let's jump into their tasks application and see how that works as well. And here we are again, super simple and clean interface, 2 columns this time, with the column on your left being your actual task list, and then the column on the right is going to be the tasks inside that list. Now we're going to stick with a local sort of implementation here. I'm not going to add an online account. That way we can go through and see how it all works. So at the very top of our task list we have a scheduled, and then just below that we have all of the lists. By default we have one local for personal, so let's add a new task list by pressing the button just at the bottom of here. And then there we go, and as you can see it's got a different colour to the one previous because we can set custom colours and kind of colour code all of our task lists like so. So if we press these 3 dots here, we can see that we have the option to show completed, delete a list, or then of course choose a colour. So let's test it out with the purple. There we go. So let's try and make a new task, and it's going to be to finish this video, and then we can also set a due date. So I'm going to try and get it done today. Timing's not too important, and then we can also choose a location, and then the details, or we can extend it with some more information in this main box here. So details go here, and then we can add that task, and then there we go, that task has now been added. I don't think it appears on your events at the top though, much like your calendar does. It doesn't. So I'll show you how it works with the calendar in just a moment as well. So now that we've got a task here, let's go ahead and say we've finished that task now. So as you can see, it's still on the screen. So if we then press these 3 dots again, we can then get rid of it, and then we can show completed once more as well. And then to completely delete the task, we can just go straight back into it and then delete said task. What we're going to do is very quickly jump onto the calendar application and show you the events from your drop down here, and then we'll check out some media playback, and I think we're going to wrap it up there and then save the rest of it for the final review. Okay, so here we are with their calendar application. So say we wanted to add a new event on today, so we double click there and we just say anything, And now we're just going to create that event, and that's going to open it up on the top on the side of the right there. And then if we press this button here, as you can see, all of the events for today will then appear there. So if we go on to 6 and create another one on 6, so again we're just going to write testing this time, create event, and then we're going to go back into our drop down calendar and we're going to go on to 6, and then as you can see, testing is right there ready for us. What we're going to do now is test out some media playback and see how it all works, and also see if the little widget in our volume slider is working, and then we'll start to wrap things up. Okay, so we are now back in our file manager, and again, like we realized at the beginning with the hybrid mode, just single clicking something that's not a folder will not go ahead and actually open that up. It's going to select it and it's going to take a double click to then open that up in its default application. And there we go, there is the video I done on Arch Labs previously, and it all is working absolutely fine. So what we're going to do now is see if we've got any options in the volume here as well. So no, so it's just going to be working for music in the music application. So let's test that out now as well. And of course we have the YouTube banger of Scarlet Fire. So let's go ahead and open that up. And then there we go, a very nice looking music player. And what we're going to do is now if we go into the top, we then have the options to actually pause and skip that track. And of course this is all built on top of Ubuntu 20.04 LTS, so you're going to get a nice amount of support moving forward. And the kernel we are currently using is 5.8.0-50. And that is where I'm going to wrap up with my first look of Elementary OS 6. All in all though, I've enjoyed my little time and run through of the beta, and it's got me very excited for the stable version. So far my favourite new feature is actually the touchpad gestures, which are some of the smoothest I've seen of any distribution as of late. Now when it comes time for the stable release, I'm going to install it on both the desktop and the laptop, use it for a few days as a daily driver, and then wrap it up there with some final thoughts, so make sure you are subscribed for that. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe and join the Discord. There's a link in the description. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.